check the mic, 1, 2. SNX Radio, typical skeptic crew. Friday night, we're back in the booth, dropping truth bombs, igniting the proof.
Robin Coley, cosmic collision, unidentified open transmission. From Area 51 to Skinwalker Ranch, declassify the files, give truth a chance. Bass drum thumping, a sonic boom, we're breaking down the walls of every room. Skeptical minds unite tonight, underneath the stars bathed in moonlight. Truth serum flowing through the veins, open your mind, break the chains. Question everything, challenge the norm, ride the cosmic wave, weather the storm. Truth serum flowing, take a dose, unravel the secrets, expose what's close. Join the movement, the skeptical quest for the hidden knowledge put to the test.
Cryptids creeping in the shadows deep, ancient mysteries, secrets they keep. Bigfoot's footprints, Loch Ness's grace, unexplained phenomena, time and space.
We're chasing ghosts with EMF readers, searching for answers, cosmic leaders, digging for the truth beneath the surface. Uncover the lies with a lyrical purpose. Truth serum flowing through the veins, open your mind, break the chains. Question everything, challenge the norm, ride the cosmic wave, weather the storm. Truth serum flowing, take a dose, unravel the secrets, expose what's closed. Join the movement, the skeptical quest for the hidden knowledge put to the test.
From Roswell crashes to ancient lore, we're exploring the unknown and so much more. Conspiracy theories, twisted and true, uncover the answers, me and you.
Truth serum flowing through the veins, open your mind, break the chains. Question everything, challenge the norm, ride the cosmic wave, weather the storm. Truth serum flowing, take a dose, unravel the secrets, expose what's closed. Join the movement, the skeptical quest for the hidden knowledge put to the test.
SNX and typical skeptics sign off. Keep searching for truth, turn the lights off, I'll keep them on, whatever you choose. Just keep questioning, never lose that skeptical spark, that curious fire. Explore the unknown, take it higher.
Unraveling the mysteries, secrets in the night. We travel through the cosmos, ready for the flight. Together we'll shine, casting shadows aside, in the heart of the rhythm where our dreams collide.
Join the sub-nation, next quest, the truth is our guide. In the vast expanse, it's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the grooves around us, everything's alright.
From the sub-nation X quest, the truth is our guide. In the vast expanse, it's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the grooves surround us, everything's alright. SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spots. Heavy bass drops with tight beats.
Illuminate the shadows, the echo of our call.
On this roller wing will never fall.
Feel the energy rising, can you sense the spark? As we dive deeper into the cosmic arc.
Stories of the universe, mysteries unfold. In the heart of SNX, where the truth is gold. Every note we play, every line we write, crafting our legacy, shining ever bright.
SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spot. Here in the spotlight, we're taking our turn. With the fire in our hearts, let the passion burn. SNX Radio's call, ringing through the air. Together we rise, together we dare.
So join us now, let the rhythm flow. With SNX Radio, we're ready to go. Unraveling the mystery side by side, we stand hand in
everybody, and welcome to a Friday double with. We've got Rob from Typical Skeptic Podcast, and I'm Coley, as you all know, from SNX Radio. We got a very special guest. But while I'm dropping the show live, I'm going to hand this over to Rob, and he's going to introduce our special guest for today. So,
what's up, everybody? I'm excited to be here. We got a really amazing guest today. We got with us Miles Johnston. I met Miles in person 2 years in a row, so I happen to know him, and I know him pretty well, and he's amazing. Miles is a pioneering UFO researcher, filmmaker, and creator of the Basis Project. For decades, he's been on the cutting edge of ufology, super soldier testimonies, underground bases, and reptilian agendas. He's best known for his long-running Basis Project interviews, a groundbreaking video series documenting whistleblowers, contactees, MyLab victims, which are military abductions, and researchers across the UFO and conspiracy spectrum. Miles has worked closely with figures like Max Spears and has archived critical testimony about mind control, secret technologies, and off-world agendas. And it's a real pleasure to have him back on the show. Everybody welcome Miles Johnston.
Well, hey, you've got one heck of a show there. I love all that music. That's brilliant. I used to play something like that on the radio with a 50-watt pirate radio transmitter. Good old 80s sort of thumping, well-produced bang, bang, boom, boom. And right up to 2005, which is possibly where some of you guys have just been born, I don't know. Pirate radio has got a great feel to it because it's naughty and you're not meant to be doing it, but it's fun.
I love it. You really think that Rob and I look like we're born from, would you say the 2000s? That's awesome.
Well, the main thing is about this conference and this thing at Tampa, and you disclosure people. Is you're young, you're exciting, you're switched on, and you're not taking any non-disposable residuals. Since this is a family show. See? We got a pussycat here, by the way. We got five
going around. I said we love cats.
Five of Sandra DeRoy's pussycats here. Right. A lot of stuff's happening. I think the Atlas thing's a psyop, and possibly worse. Might actually be something real. Apart from that, everything's fine.
What do you think about that?
I think if we go back to one of the remote viewers from the original remote viewers group, he talked about I'm not good with names. We're talking about a day when objects pass the Earth and they have to take the space shuttle down. So it's oh God, I need more vitamins or something. It's not Colonel John B. Alexander. It's one of the major Dr. Doom remote viewers. We're going back to 1998 here, and he's one of the core remote viewers. And he forecast, and everybody dismissed him, that there would be large objects incoming, which would result in a catastrophic situation on Earth, right? So everybody said, well, the space shuttle's landed, hasn't happened, but SpaceX is going up, and there is a big space station. So, no, it's not McGonagall. No. The other remote viewers sort of dismissed them. Anyway, we have a situation where large objects have started to come into the solar system, and we got a major psyop because we're meant to have a whole Draco harvest starting in 2028. Going through to 2032, which combines with the Agenda 30 stuff, which combines with everybody being injected, because you got to make the meat tasty. If you're going to have a harvest, you've got to have them all pre-injected. So if you haven't been injected, the Draco probably will, well, we don't want that one. Turn their nose at you. And I actually had a girlfriend. I know that's a bit of a shock, and she was French, and she was in a place called Egypt, where there's these, the public buildings that they built in those days. They built them to last, those pyramids, and she was very important, very, very, very sharp for certain assets in Europe, doing certain things like finding aliens. But she was taken, abducted and taken to a police station in Cairo, and she was with another Italian girl. And the point about it was she knew how to keep her cool. So she's locked up in the police cells, and then she's taken out, and there's a whole bunch of these guys in a ring, and she's very loosely tied to a post in this deep part of the police station. And they do all this sort of stuff, and they do their whole thing and rabbit on about this ceremony and that ceremony. And then they do the big thing. They reveal themselves as reptilians. At which point, any decent, self-respecting young girl would scream her lungs out and scream, ah, do all that. And she just says, is that the best you can do? So she didn't have any adrenaline. She didn't freak out. So from their perspective, they weren't interested in her. So she just was able to walk away. Unfortunately, the Italian girl that was in the other cell, she wasn't so fortunate. So that's an example of disarming a situation when you do the unexpected. If you're able to disarm a situation, do the unexpected. But that's going back a long time, and that was a long time ago for her. So that's an example of a lot of people walking around in cloaks, and we've seen drawings of certain types of reptilian with these sort of, you know, priest-like things. So I don't know where that story gets us, but anyway.
Yeah, you know what? One thing I wanted to ask you about, Miles. Oh, sorry. I was going to say a couple people said this before the show, and I know that you and I have talked about it when you came on my show, but like for some reason this topic never dies. Like, you know, a couple people told me to ask you about Max Spears. Like, and I know you're probably tired of talking about Max Spears, but like,
oh, this whole thing's all about Max Spears. Oh, since I've started talking about that, I've got 2 bleeping lights on my recorders, the alarm bells going off. Just before I came out to this conference recently in July, I had a friend who is a very delightful friend, and I know that I won't do that joke again. But I mean, we've known each other since the 1990s. She's a former model. She did makeup at Sky Television, Sky News. She made, you know, all the politicians up. Very good-looking lady. She was. I won't do too much of an identification on her. We've been friends for years. And sometimes we'd always have breakfast here in this wonderful little town here. I won't say where it is because people will maybe know who she is. Anyway, the point is that we've been together, you know, friends, all that, you know, since 1990, since Sky Television started, which was basically a pirate TV station run by some guy with a bit of money called Rupert Murdoch, who thinks he can own a couple of newspapers. Some guy like that, you know, it's some kind of whatever. So the point is that sometimes we'd have breakfast and she'd be rather too well informed because somebody had briefed her on something, because they knew that she was going to meet me for breakfast on Mondays. So just before the conference, I'm flying out on the Tuesday, and then we're having breakfast on the Monday, and guess what? She knows all about Max Spears. And wow. She knows all about Max Spears in a common thread of just dismissing him as a drunk. Now, there's only 2 types of people would do that sort of thing. It's the kind of people who put him away in the first place. That was a mistake, by the way. And it's other people who knew he would be triggered to drink excessively. And in the video that we did at Canterbury, that's the video where Max says, Miles, we know who you are, you know, and he got the key, and we're walking through Canterbury, and we go around Canterbury Cathedral, but we went into a pub, and there were about 6 pairs of people in the pub. And there were also, because I then went outside, there were also 2 people guarding the entrance, as if they were like on guard. And Max, we're having a chat with Max, and Sarah was there. It was a wonderful time. It was good fun. It was all good fun. But they were trying to trigger Max to get drunk. And he identified 2 of them, and he explained in the game, he knew they were all MI5 or an asset, an agency, these people. They knew, so there were half a dozen, that's six pairs of nice people, just having a drink in a pub in Canterbury, doing nothing else. Nothing else. Well, one pair, he said, he identified one pair, and he explained in the game, once you identify them in the game, they have to leave. So these two very nice people got up and left. So when we walked out, they actually said, one of the ladies, very polite, very nice people, the lady says, "Oh, hello, Miles. Yeah, good to see you," all that. But their job was to be there and to see what was going to happen. So there was a major expenditure of assets employed, just me walking around with Max that day. Now, if we spin back to Canterbury Cathedral, Canterbury, Max had done a ritual with Orlando Bloom a long time ago when he was at public school. And another small, insignificant person called Tony Stark Refat, Tim Refat. Tim stands for Total Intent Manifest. And Tim had been educating the Rothschilds and a lot of the elite families until one day they pissed him off. But the other thing about Tim is he had also been trained by MI6's Mr. Magic Guy, a guy called Colin Bloy. We're talking about stuff in the 60s now, 70s. Colin Bloy. And he wrote a whole book and a whole thing about the fountains of Brighton. And there was a global sort of, hey, let's all do this stuff about praying and doing all this hey man stuff, feeding information into one of the fountains in Brighton. It turns out that the position of that fountain, which has a demonic entity on the thing where all the water spills out, that's where the energy comes in to England, the island, the landmass of Great Britain, and it goes right up the whole country. And that is where there's a exact, I think it's St. Bartholomew's Church, and it's got precise dimensions. I think it's a 3, 4, 5. Could be wrong. It's how you make a perfect triangle. This goes into Pythagoras and stuff like that. So the point is, that was one of these new age things where you get a whole lot of people all over the world to do something, and they all do a sort of a thing, and they all think we're going to do peace and all that sort of stuff. And that was being used by MI6's Mr. Magic Guy, Colin Bloy, who then trained and gave Tim Refat a whole pile of other things. And Tim Refat is Mr. Magic Guy. And then he's had a hissy fit and a tantrum. MI5 don't like him. And £1 million disappears out of his bank account in the Mediterranean. And there's a lot of people having hissy fits and tantrums here. So he's now... we did a lot of work and it was good fun, but there was very serious stuff. It was all on camera, and that's with the Grid Keeper. And the Grid Keeper, that's Duncan Davis, is part of the team that was with James Casbolt, who's only now out of a political prisoner, unquote, and another guy called Sohail. And Sohail has shacked up with a very delightful, lovely lady called Brigitte Barclay. She has a show on the internet thing, and she's English. Hello, she's very English. She talks with big classes, and she's very, very English. And those two are together, and it's very nice people. So it's all connecting here. So the point is, we're going to the Disclosure Conference in Tampa for the second time, and the first time a lot of the CIA assets were headed off. So we didn't get the results. You've got to say this thing seriously. I don't think you're taking this seriously. I'm saying, Coley, I'm saying things seriously. I've put down a deeper accent here. Okay?
I'm taking it very
you behave at the back of the class.
So and I'm used to that. I am used to that. Behave. That's where I usually go.
So anyway, we had a fun conference, and I think one of those very fine CIA assets actually gave me a beer in a can. So I had a look at the beer in the can, and I wondered, look, if they got something in it. So eventually my better judgment said, feck it, I'll just drink the beer. Sometimes you just drink the beer. However, that then evolved, and so as a disclosure conference, they changed tack. So here's me having breakfast with my friend, who's a very nice friend, doing a beeline on a character assassinating Max. And as we all know, Max died twice. Now, the first time was by design because they drugged him with special, very nasty drugs, which were used on me, but they didn't work. And then I got a phone call from somebody saying, "You were not meant to survive that." You know, I think that was an Eastern Latvian accent, but Latvia is the other side anyway. But
Sounds
all
like
very
Arnold
serious.
Schwarzenegger.
So I was very annoyed with my friend, and we haven't spoken since. But the point is, that's what happened at the first meeting that we had in Canterbury. We then left Canterbury. They had a very nice time, and this is when we did the first interviews in Canterbury. It wasn't Canterbury. It was the two towns on the coast. And the point is, we went to Max's relatives. Her grandmother had died, and basically Max and Sarah were sitting there, and they were going to basically house sitting during this time when you have a mother passing on. And so they were basically house sitting or flat sitting, a very nice flat. I think it's Broadstairs. I think so. And there's this is where there are things on the Kent coast, and it's related to Mars and Margate, the Mars Gate, and there's another gate in the channel, which the old jump gates to Mars thing. We got no relevance. Nobody's talking about that these days. But what happened was one person got through and triggered Max, and he hit the heavy, hard liquor. He was drinking like 400-year-old brandy, and he was so out of it that the whole interview that whole day was cancelled. And I came back. It's a hell of a way to the Broadstairs. It's a hell of a way where we are. It's a long drive, and that whole thing was a shambles. And Sarah was very concerned. It was dreadful. But eventually, about 4 hours later, we did an interview. And Max gave a very good interview, pushing past the alcohol. And that was never released until I made a decision, because he was obviously drunk, but he was saying stuff, pushing through this several years, I think about 4 or 5 years after his death. And remember, this is the ninth anniversary of Max's death. So why go to such an effort to completely slag off a man who's been dead for 9 years? And still he seems to be important. And I've lost a very good friend over this. 35 years.
Wow.
And that's a big deal. So there's a hell of a lot of energy being put in to keep that stuff hammered down. Now, it turns out that when James was released from the jail here, I went down to see James in Earlstoke jail. And somebody had sent a nasty letter in to the Home Secretary, Priti Patel. And frankly, she was very pretty. And they decided that James, rather than being released, we all literally expected him to be able to come up to Devizes here and have a beer. He's just out of jail, and we could have a beer and say hello and how is it? And James wasn't in too bad a state. You know, he things had happened. There had been some very nasty things involved, and we won't talk about that because it's a family show. But the point is, after that, he didn't go anywhere. He disappeared. Nobody knew where he was. Well, it seems now that he's served a full sentence, so he can talk, and he's now down in Zenner and St. Ives in Cornwall, where he always lived down there. And there's this guy called Bob Osborne, who likes to sort of have a bit of comedy. Bob Osborne's written a very important book about what was going on in Zenner and Cornwall. That's where the Nazis were. That's where the technocrats were. All the people that they're planning what is going on now all went down to southwest Cornwall, St. Ives. Okay? So you're dealing with a hell of a lot of busy people there. That's where Aleister Crowley did his stuff. There's actually a cottage which some people have bought because they wanted to continue the rituals that he did. And it's now for sale for £3 million.
Wow.
Wow.
However, you can buy this wreck of a cottage, which actually was still occupied till I think the 90s. There's actually a 4x4 stuck there, but the local farmers won't let you put any services up there or any road to get to it. You can buy it for your 3 million or whatever, but that's where Aleister Crowley did rituals in Cornwall, and that connected to Montauk, and that also connected with the John Parsons. Now, initially, I said that John Parsons had been down there. So you've then got D.H. Lawrence, Aldous Huxley, all the names that you can think of involving the technocratic Fabians, the Fabian Society, and they laid all their plans and did stuff with the ley lines down in Cornwall, where James Casbolt lives. And this is the infrastructure of global power to establish this nightmare technocratic 1984 society, which is in work right now. So shall I have another cup of coffee? This is the Bases mug, right?
And Miles, maybe you could tell people how Bases was formed, because you've been, like I said, you've been on my show, but you haven't been on Coley's yet. So
basically, I come from Belfast, and I've got a family. My family did linen, Irish linen. So anybody who's bought Irish linen, our family was part of the linen stuff, people making linen. So I come from that sort of lineage. There's also a little bit of another thing in there involving pirate radio, which is good fun, and there's very important reasons for that. So when I was at school, we don't have to go back to the bloody Stone Age, but I set up a UFO group, and my physics teacher said UFOs are rubbish, and I said no, they're not. And I got interested in that, so I started a UFO group. So I did an awful lot of stuff on UFOs. I got a lot of stuff published on BBC television. I was on TV. I was on TV when I was in 5th form with my school tie on. Jesus, I don't know. My mic still works. Jeez. So I've been on TV before you were born, okay? And fortunately, there's nobody that had any video recorders then. But I've been TV since 5th form. You have, that would be 5th grade or whatever it is. And then you go 6th grade or 6th form, and then you go off to university or technical, whatever. So I set up a UFO group. I was part of the British UFO Research Association. I spoke at some of their conferences. So I had a big interest in that. And then pirate radio came along, and I was always pissed off. Radio Caroline, this radio ship had to be set up in order to play a couple of records, because in Britain, you had so little music time to play records. It was very difficult to get a record played unless you were part of a special club. And this is where the telepathic control of a population using AM radio comes in. And even the radio amateurs got suspicious about that. Something happened when they started using AM radio. And that's why Radio Caroline was on AM. Well, it was on AM because practically in the 1960s, that's how you broadcast. And it got huge distances, right all around the British Isles, because it was on sea. So cutting to the chase, where are we going with this? I did that, did a respectable job building telephone exchanges. Then I said, I've got to join the BBC, got to join the BBC. So I joined the BBC. It was the worst thing I ever did. I got warnings about that. Don't you ever, and I didn't realize how bad it was. That's another thing. So I did the UFO stuff and got jobs, got serious and behaved properly or improperly. And then I got back at Sky TV. I got fired at the BBC for building a massive pirate station called Kiss FM 102.7, 103.7, 1.2 million watts. Good fun. And then I joined a TV station, which was part of that whole thing, which had to happen. So there was esoteric ET backing to Sky Television, and that brings in the Chinese later on, but we're not going to go into that. So anyway, I decided to go back into UFOs, and then I'm in London, and then I meet a couple of people, a woman called Lisa McKenna Williams, She ran a Mensa group on UFOs. She's very high level.
Mm-hmm.
And her sons were fathered by U.S. Air Force people. You Americans get in everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
you bloody Americans. So
Have
she
our
had a
hands
kid,
and everything.
the kid was visited by what he called the airplane man. And it turns out that she was getting abducted by Greys in East London. You know the old East London thing? Greys walking about in broad daylight, walking up to you in a lunch break and abducting you, that kind of thing, East London.
Wow.
So she was connected with a group run by a brilliant, genuine UFO researcher in East London called Roy Lake. And that group was London UFO Studies. And they did real good UFO research. The British UFO Research Association was basically 100% MI5. When you phoned in to Bufora, the phone that you phoned in on was in the private house of an MI5 asset. So you were literally speaking to MI5,
Wow.
right? However, Roy Lake and his team were doing really good work, and part of that is the big UFO base on the Thames estuary, which is on the north shore, which would be in Essex, and Essex is a hell of a lot of stuff in Essex. So this guy came along, and he was called Barry King, and Lisa said, we're going to go up and see this guy called Barry King, and this is 1994, and he was a security guard at a base called Peasmore, AL499, I think it's called. And that was a base in Berkshire. And he basically sat down with Lisa, who had a dreadful habit of smoking and eating crisps and drinking cans of Coke. So I had to sort of re-edit that out because she didn't like didn't like that. She somehow rejected that on camera. That's when I did a thing called do a single camera shoot. But the bottom line is that Barry King was saying that his father in World War II was tasked with British intelligence was to find the labs that the Germans were using to make generated life forms. And he found them. So the British knew at the close of World War II, the Germans, forget about their flying saucers. They had all these flying saucers. Forget about New Swaziland and the setup of New Berlin under the ice and all that. The British knew that the Germans were making these things. They were making transgenic beings. And that's what a lot of the stuff down in Zenner was all about. These people have been planning this for a very long time to get rid of us and make cyborgs. So then I thought this ran on for 2 hours, and the thing which clicked it, the thing, you got two people. The point was that both Barry and Lisa really communicated on the back politics. It's the back politics, the backstabbing, the double crossing, the innuendo. You got reptilians and Greys in a British base, and they're knocking off these alien things. Okay, so the key thing that made me continue this was the backstabbing inner politics. Because if you've ever been to the BBC, that's what it's all about. They've got so little to do in the BBC. You're covering this whole thing, and they only get like a few hours of programming locally. They're all backstabbing each other and all that sort of stuff. And that happens with any big organization. One of the reasons why we were able to stay on the air with Energy 106 when we should have been taken off the air immediately, because we were a pirate station, 1995 in the Irish border with the British territory of Northern Ireland. And we ran for 9 to 10 years because the Belfast branch, i.e. British, told the Dublin branch, the Dublin radio communications people, why haven't you taken this pirate station off the air? This is where it is. This is where your office is. And they drew a line from Energy 106 pirate station right the whole way down in each road to the office where this guy sat and told him, why haven't you raided this station? It's a disgrace What are you doing? Well, if some other department's going to tell you what to do, what do you think you're going to tell that other department? You're going to tell them where to go. Unfortunately, that allowed us to keep broadcasting for 9 years, and that's a whole nother story. It turns out that that's another story, but that actually connects the pirate radio thing with the ET stuff, and a thing called consciousness and perception management, which is a new thing that somebody mentioned about in the Pentagon. Why would the Pentagon have a thing on perception management? That just
dirty. That is
so
dirty.
the point is that I stuck with that, and then another guy came along, and he's called James Casbolt, and I saw my original VHS tapes. He was playing them, and what the hell's he doing? And it turns out he went to see Barry King, and Barry King's talked to him, and the story evolved from there, and it didn't go away. So only a few weeks ago, that story came to life when my 35-year friendship ended, when that individual had been briefed to give me a hard time so that my presentation at that conference would not work. So that's the whole story for 35 plus years. So why is Max still on the table?
I think I can answer that. I think it's because, it seems like now more than ever, more people are getting memories back of the, being super soldiers. Plus, like, Max left such a mark on, I think a lot of people, like, when they woke up, one of the first things they saw was Max Spears. Like, I know that was me. I used to listen to Art Bell back in the day, but, like, when I first had my awakening, some of the content I first got into was some of Max's basis interviews, were your interviews with Max Spears,
Well, that's basically been my job, to get it on camera. And we did this bloody program when I got fired from Sky because I found out Chinese intelligence had invaded Murdoch's operation in West London. Did I say that? My job was to make sure you got the bloody pictures right, So that's what that was all about. And then that brought in Simon Parks, and it brought in another woman whose daughter was murdered. I won't say her name, but this is bad stuff. This is not good. Her daughter was murdered, and James has been treated very badly. And, a lot of people have died on this, and Lisa's gone. I could list a whole list of them. So we're not playing games here. And a lot of people, when they give their story, I want to make sure it's going to be there. And sometimes they may have a hissy fit and a tantrum about something. But it's my expression of verbal punctuation when I say certain words in a rapid order. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Sorry, you go, Coley, if you had a question.
No, I was going to say that's fascinating, and you shared some just fascinating details. What do you think is the reason why people can't let it go, or do you agree with Rob, or what do you think? I mean, you were so close to him.
So is that for me or Rob?
For you, Miles.
I don't have time to think, actually. I just keep going. And there's I mean, I've taken a hell of a lot of it's been tough, my toe hurts, it's maintain flight path protocol during the flak, and keep your targets and take them out. Every time they take a shot, that gives me another target. And I think that's one of my assets, is that I deliver the weapon to the target. I said that once, and there was a couple of soldiers in the local pub, and they freaked out on that and sort of practically had a heart attack in a funeral. No weddings, though.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's what you've got to do. We are in an active war situation for our survival. And you guys are bright and bushy-tailed, and you're doing a good job, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the targeting seems to be real, Miles. You know, it seems
Yeah.
like they're targeting a lot.
This is real. It's happening. There's a lot of energy on it. And I think there's frustration in the United States that the CIA's made a fool of themselves. They break the rules of television. Show business has rules. You don't break them. It doesn't matter who you are. If a show doesn't work, you don't keep running the bloody thing. Okay? And that's what they've been doing. The other thing that they've been doing is, it doesn't matter which organization you are, you don't break these rules of show business. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You may be a whatever the hell you are, but you go on stage, you got the stage, and whatever that stage is, could be TV, could be on stage, you know, you could be doing something, right? But you were doing something and people are watching, right? And they've got to be entertained and informed. Otherwise, you get bored, fall asleep. So there are rules of engagement in terms of show business. If you break those rules, and the other one is, don't believe your own PowerPoint. Don't believe your own propaganda. That's fatal. And these guys do it all the time. They're a bunch of dickheads. And they don't care which part of the world or whatever you're doing. Plus, if you are a living, breathing, oxygen, organic thing here, and that includes these one of the things that a lot of things have been going on is soul swapping. We discovered a soul swap facility down here, not too far away from here. A lot of things aren't too far away from here.
Soul swapping. So
they're taking a human soul out and putting an alien soul in.
Wow.
And that was a facility knocking this stuff off down in bit of Wiltshire, we'll say. Now, we did a little bit of analysis on that with certain people, and they'd shut those facilities down only about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And the ETs had left, and this is where you have the human wet bag or wetware, and then you swap things over. And one of the people who put a lot of stuff on that, who's now dead, is a guy called Chris Thomas. That's where the original story of Nibiru and the Velos people came. Velon is a twin star system, binary system, and they were looking for a solar system which was very close to their energetic levels. And this solar system was very close to their energetic levels. So they decided, right, we'll come here and we're going to set up shop here. There was a decision made collectively by their race as such. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to find some other place. But a critical mass of them stayed, and they decided to take us over. And that is where these particular individuals, at certain levels, you'd go into these meetings, go into these rituals. They all have rituals and do their running around in circles, doing whatever. And they don't. Once you're in that, you're not going to get out. Your soul comes out. They body hop, and that happens with the royals. And Duncan Davis, the grid keeper, explained an awful lot of that when Her Majesty the Queen was bumped off. Oh, did I say she was bumped off? That's a Tim Refat. Oh, by the way. And the ability of her entity to body swap wasn't able to happen. And what we've got now is a bit of a shit show. But that kind of thing was happening. So the ability to do that and then mask your existence by being in the physical human wetware. But if you're in the human wetware and you screw with the atmosphere and the other things which will kill off that human wetware, you're toast as well as anybody else. And you're not going anywhere.
Wow.
And one of the people I interviewed relatively recently, I won't say her name, but very well informed, very informed and very articulate young lady, discovered that a lot of the so-called injected can't leave. They're stuck here. So they can't go. So there's an automatic lockout. And this is where the sentient oil comes in. The Germans had successfully, I knew all about all this stuff. So that the sentient oil, which had been deliberately targeted here, and there's a very good film called Quatermass, 1950s. One of the first Quatermass films has these rocks landing on Earth from some other location. And when you go over to them, the rock breaks and this thing comes out and takes you over. And then they build this facility to create all this stuff. And there's all this black stuff swarming around to take over Earth. That's 1950s whistleblowing. A lot of B movies post-war are blowing whistles. And you better watch them.
Oh.
You're talking about black goo, right? Or what people know as black goo, right?
It's called black goo, but a lot of people mistake black goo. Like, I've got black goo in my car. It's called oil. It's been there too long.
Yeah.
Just because it's black and it's oily and it doesn't make it a sentient oil. The point is the Germans knew that. They refined it. And a lot of that landed in the southern hemisphere, but not all of it. Some of it landed in Northern Ireland. And that is known by the relevant authorities. So basically the British knew this. Again, the British knew this. So they went and took out the Georgia station. That's Thule Island, the Thule base. Funny how they had one on an island in the southern hemisphere and they had another one in the northern hemisphere. So that was the prize reason for the Falklands War. They got all the refined material in a base where all of that stuff was kept at minus 22 degrees Celsius, and they were in interlocking when it was refined. And that was, there was an American there, a blue-gray, and local Argentinian personnel. The Brits came with two destroyers, a cargo ship, and a submarine. The submarine had the British the SAS, the Special Boat Service, the commandos. The commandos were there to blow up the facility, which they did with extreme intent. So meanwhile, all of that sentient oil, which were in interlocking crates, about 400 of them, were then put on the cargo ship and brought back to the UK. And then that was distributed across the UK military bases. And initially, a lot of the results on that didn't work too well. And at the time, there were a lot of civilian scientists who self-terminated. And those are the Marconi deaths. Okay, a lot of young scientists self-terminated. And that's a gross example of gross malicious negligence, that you expose talented young people to a deadly situation because the sentient oil they were dealing with did not want to kill people. And they were tasked with making it kill people. And they didn't want to do that. So the oil, which is just sitting there on a petri dish or whatever, it mind controlled the person who was making it do this terrible thing, and they killed themselves with extreme ingenuity. And that's the Marconi scientists. So the British then took that and developed it, and they realized they'd done something with it, and it's in various places now. That's going back to when the Falklands War was on, which is way back early 80s, whatever. And those Marconi scientists died, and then the civilian branch tried to use it, and some witnesses have explained that that was then disposed of by just pouring it down the bloody drain. Therefore, it decided to change certain insects and things. And this goes back then to the Gulf oil spill, where they picked up more of that stuff. The fundamental building blocks of life on this world and other worlds is you've got to have water, special water, energetically water, with those triple spirals. And when you've got triple spirals, that's triple bifilar spirals, and you've got three of them, which is on the ancient megaliths, and that is interdimensional technology. And that means that then would take the building blocks of what's on this world, on this space-time gravity field, to use completely incorrect terms, but to make it understandable. So then that gets intelligent life made into biological life and all the other things which are needed in warm water, warm salty water. And one of the first things you see are all these sort of things with tentacles and legs, and then they evolve all up. And that creates the higher life forms. And that's how life, biological life on this earth, is made by the planet. Other planets, other energy fields, which are resonant states. A planet is basically like a node on a tune in a tuned circuit, like on an organ. You got a pipe, it has certain nodes, certain frequencies, and it's a stable zone, right? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the tune of the solar system has these sort of stable areas, because that's where there's a stable energy field, and we call that matter. Okay? You change the tune, everything flies around the place very quickly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where you have the crop circles, and you got all those sort of things, and a lot of sacred designs. You have all these tunes, resonant energy states in water, and then that constructs the 3D physical molecules to build us as physical devices. The enemy we have, which we must destroy. If you want to talk, come through the front door, we'll have a talk. But what you're doing, what these things are doing, are not organic life. And that is the problem. The Earth's sentient oil is having to fight with the different energetic structure of the extraterrestrial, deliberately and maliciously landed sentient oil. That stuff that the Germans got was designed to do something else. And then they think they can reprogram it and do other things with it. But meanwhile, it may not want to be reprogrammed. It may end up programming you, i.e., that's where the Marconi scientist died. So this is highly complicated stuff, but that's the fundamental building blocks on how life evolves. So what we've got, who are running the whole planet right now, including the bloody Chinese with their AI and all the rest of it, is a bunch of gobshites who are playing with fire, and they will be terminated with extreme prejudice and sent to an automatic self-destruct mode, which will disappear and disintegrate them totally out of all existence to source, to wherever they came from. That's an automatic survival mechanism of the universes of life. This whole system wasn't built, and if anything, to have failure. If you got failures or things going off script, you're toast. That system's enabled and it's functional, which means you stop it or you get off this world, bugger off. And they're not doing that. So that may mean a complete reset to zero on things here. Thus, big rocks coming in as debris to do a few things like change a few, move the furniture around.
Yeah.
And that's encoded in the Egyptian artifacts. And Syed Noah, who I've done some things here with in the studio, he's former head of or senior civil servant involved with the artifacts at Luxor. He's going to be talking about that hopefully in the 4th of October. But it looks as if that venue, which is run by certain handshaking people, that should be happening on 4th of October, but I think it's probably going to be delayed.
Wow.
Is that too much code?
No. Angela Colm in the chat wanted to know what you think about the weaponizing of super soldiers.
That's what the Germans were doing. And remember, Elon Musk's connection with Neuralink and all that stuff. One of the problems they had was You see, the problem is these idiots think 3D. Everything happens in the brain. It doesn't happen in the brain. The whole body has memory because you're all the same resonant structure. And they think if you take this bit out and stick that bit in, that it'll work. It doesn't work that way. So that's one of the reasons why, if you look at Futurama, they have all these heads in jars. There's a lot of whistleblowing there, where they keep the head, and then you can interface the head into something. And they discovered a long time ago that, okay, I'm moving my arm, right? But the brain doesn't know the difference between moving the arm here, or you're taking charge of a whole super, Transformers type thing. But people like Penny Bradley and things will tell you that if you're going to fly one of these intergalactic spaceship things, you have to be with that. You have to be one with the craft. So you have to, and that's a more sensible way of doing it. The other thing about this story about the making aliens, making basically Dulce, the Dulce stuff going on at Dulce is going on in the UK. We're way ahead on all this. So independent information arrived that they were making these generated life forms for, quote, use on the lunar base. Who the hell said that the British have got a lunar base? What's going on up there? By the way, I'm going to give you an exclusive. Put things along the side. We're going to do something tomorrow with Thomas Mikey Jensen, who's been looking at the Mars satellite pictures, and he's found something. You know this thing, the square?
No, what's that?
Where they find 1.2 kilometers. Even Elon Musk's been talking about this. Do you not watch the TV or anything, Rob? Rob, you don't watch the goddamn TV. Coley, you stop laughing at the back of the class.
You're coming back by me, Rob, to the back of the class.
The square thing on Mars. I'm not going to, if you don't even know what that is, why should I even tell you it didn't exist a few years ago?
I know, Miles.
You know it didn't exist a few years ago?
No, I know what you're talking about. I watched it.
So who's just put it there?
I don't, that's what I'm wanting to know, yeah.
I think a few people missed that. For clever people watching at home, in black and white, that's a bad joke. I can only do these bad jokes once. It goes back to a BBC commentator in the days of black and white television, where we had a thing in Britain called color television. In the United States, you had a thing called color television. But in Britain, we have color television with a U in it because... Anyway, only a few nonsense, whatever laddie does, had a thing called a color TV. Because it cost £1,000 and you could buy 4 houses for that price at that time. And the BBC commentator said, for those of you looking in black and white, the red ball is beside the blue ball. You're in black and white, you can't see the bloody red ball to start with. That didn't work, did it? That joke didn't work.
I love him. I just turned my mic off. I'm laughing so loud. I don't want to disturb it. But yeah, I keep them coming. Keep them coming.
So, are we getting somewhere here? Yeah. So the main thing is that the full disclosure situation is under extreme threat. They don't like people going off script. They don't like people maintaining. There's a question there about the Earth grid. The Nazis were much more advanced. Maria Wheatley will tell you about this in establishing successful energy extraction and control of the Earth's grid than the British were. And that's why a lot of these Nazis were in Zenner, in Cornwall, and also in Ireland, where they were able to, a lot of deep archaeology is very, very sensitive stuff. And all that ancient alien stuff you see in the telly is a pile of, well, anyway, it's like everything else. You've got to watch, you've got to be really deep what they're saying. So what are we, so.
What about the crop circles, Miles?
The crop circles is a psyop.
All of them?
All of them are a psyop. Now, the point about it is you've got an awful lot of people in the places where the crop circles were popular who do rituals and do an awful lot. If you scratch the surface of little old quaint England or little old quaint Ireland or little old quaint Scotland, I always called Scotland Scotchland just to annoy them, you'll get into a pagan or very, shall we say, very non-publicly known as Christian level of rituals and issues. And they know that the megaliths, they know the structure of the megaliths are interdimensional gateways. The people who put those megaliths down all over the world must have had off-world knowledge. The mathematics, the relative positions must be non-terrestrial. And Maria Wheatley has discovered that Stonehenge was actually built by long-skulled people. And only a couple of days ago, she wanted me to take some video for future work on a 400-foot long barrow, and that's in military training target range areas, which means you don't mess about there because big shells, big things this size, they might fire them, and they're very rude to you if you get hit by one of them. But they have completely covered this long barrow, which is a mass grave of long-skulled people, and they don't want you to know about it, and they don't want anybody to go there. So they've covered this long barrow with, you know, the type of square grid wire you have at tennis courts?
Yeah.
You know, along that kind of grade of wire, and they've of fencing wire, and they've put this entirely over all the surface part of this long barrow, and then they've planted thorn bushes all across this. And we were just able to get there a couple of days ago and actually walk through, and she left some flowers because the queen, the long-skulled queen who was ritually murdered and mass graved there, she left some flowers for that, because these bushes with the long thorns will make it impossible for anybody to go there very, very soon. So hope she might be. So this stuff about these ancient peoples is stuff they really do not want you to know about, which is why I'm talking about it. And Maria Wheatley being a redhead, I think she's a redhead this week. I think she was a blonde last week. She made a couple of errors, blonde mistakes. That's her talking. I'm in trouble. Today she's a redhead.
Oh, yeah. Oh my
God. She
God.
stole all my chips this afternoon. She kept on saying, "Miles, what's that over there?" And then I look back. And then I'd look over there, and where are these going? And there'd be a very long chip you'd get, and she couldn't eat it all at once, so I caught her red-handed.
You know, my friend Ra Castaldo, he always speaks really highly of Maria Wheatley. I think you know Ra, right, Miles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maria is an independent thinking woman, and her father was a very, very high-level master dowser, and she's doing her own work, doing very, very precisely, going a lot of places. She's actually held one of these long skulls. I think it's Cambridge, and she's being very, very cautious of Sean's work, and I've told Sean this, that those artifacts that he's getting, he needs to be very cautious about that. And I know he's very, very talented. This is what's so wonderful about the Full Disclosure Conference. It's so many people like you guys who are switched on. You're way ahead of the game. The whole UFO community is just lost with you guys, Sean Bond, and all you guys, and the people abroad in Europe. And I'm hoping we need to talk to the European peoples. That, you know, they've been through a hell of a lot, and there's a lot of stuff there. A lot of people in Ireland about the Fae and the She and the tribe of Dan and all that. There's a hell of a lot of stuff we really got to get our teeth into, and we've got to get our teeth into with extreme urgency. And we've got a situation where the powers that be globally are being irresponsible, he said.
Sure. Sure.
TheBasisProject.org is my old. Is that still there? That's my old website, TheBasisProject.org. Okay. That's sort of run aground as such, but the friend who's running it, I think I've got a bio on that. It's amazing what's still on the internet.
Oh yeah.
What about the? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Coley. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say we had a question about the cow mutilation, or excuse me, about Are they also a psyop or psyop, along with like?
Well, this is the point about the cattle mutilations. We had several of those in Northern Ireland. There's one. That's going back to my Northern Ireland days. There was one farm in the middle of the Sperrin Mountains, which is in the middle of the north of Ireland, and one farm, just 200 sheep and other animals mutilated. It's
wow.
And the same type of mutilation. There's one in other words, very close to a ritual, a standing stone area right on the border near the Irish east coast between North and South Ireland, on the border area there. There was a very alarming cattle mutilation event there, and they were also established that there's a UFO type base in Carlingford Lough, and Carlingford Lough is right opposite what's called the Lake District in England. So, for instance, you've got the Lake District, which is a very mountainous area, points out, and it's as if they, if you look at Ireland and Great Britain, you can see where they've sort of separated, so they could like stick back together again. But there's a lot of stuff in the Lake District, a lot of ET type bases, and also there are nuclear bases, and some of the other bases, people who've come from that area have spotted a lot of repurposing ET craft, which are shot down and they deliberately repurpose them, and that involves some of the nuclear power stations there. And also you've got RAF Machrihanish up there, and that connects to RAF St. Morgan, and you've got Daryl James. He was in the US Navy down at St. Morgan, and one of the people who was in charge of the Warminster thing. We've just had the 60th anniversary of the Warminster thing. In the 1960s, a lot of ET craft came along, and that's beside a huge park called Longleat. Lord Bath is involved with that, and that's where you go and see lions and tigers, and you drive your car around and you get a thrill and all that. That whole area had a lot of ET stuff in the 1960s, and the person put in charge of that was a guy called Peter Paget. And Peter Paget gave me 4 hours of disclosure material on the 50th anniversary. Last Sunday, 3 or 4 days ago, on the 60th anniversary, that was basically hijacked, and in typical UFO conference style, they didn't talk about the subject and talked about stuff that was meaningless from decades ago. Nothing new, keep calm and carry on. And again, Maria Wheatley was one of the few people there actually said something. There was one other speaker. So that area in Warminster had a crop circle there. And the crop circle just happened to be on an area which was used by the Romans when the Roman occupation, the Roman occupied forces, they had that as an amphitheater, and it's on energy lines. So they would do the rituals, and where the crop circle was, it's one of the about 3 crop circles that appeared this year. That happens to be on an energy line, which was used in the olden days of the Romans, and it was a big military base in World War I. So now it's got it's people doing horses and stuff And we were around there, and we went round the outer rim of this field, and again, where the crop circle was, lines up with other items and churches. So that was a little hello for about the events that happens at Warminster. And there was a lady who knew James, again, going back to James Casbolt, she's called Sophia, very nice lady. And she went to school with James in Reading. And there were certain things which were involved in that area of Reading where certain things happened with children, and certain events happened which would have connected the palace and Thames Valley Police and other things. And some of that stuff's been revealed in a court case with the MOD involving the little circle of friends involving James Casbolt and the Grid Keeper and John L. Walson. And the MOD in that little court case said that we've destroyed all the evidence to the judge. And this was a closed courtroom. This is only about 6 months ago. And that court case involved certain television personalities involving certain broadcasters and certain established buildings in London, which involved cars being taken. Somebody would be told, take that car, drive it to this dump. It would be put in the car crusher recycling dump to get rid of any evidence. And that involves certain connections which people might want to know about, but not necessarily right now.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you about, Miles, was I had James Bartley on before you, and by the way, he told me to tell you hello, like literally right before you, he was on. And one thing we talked about, so I don't want to go over too much, but I just wanted to get your opinion on it, was Rendlesham Forest. And I know you said you don't want to talk about things from decades ago, but I mean, there is a new document.
The whole point about Rendlesham Forest is, number one, a lot of stuff's been happening there for a very long time. When I interviewed John B. Alexander, he kept on making references to cases which were too hot to handle. And after he realized he'd said all that, he's hated my guts ever since, because he shouldn't have said any of it. So there are lots of cases involving military bases in that region which involved very high-level ET stuff. There's also the inconvenient little problem that the nose cone of a space shuttle was in one of the buildings or hangars. And this is a nose cone from a space shuttle which is stained with water because it's been recovered from a crash of a space shuttle. The little bit of a problem here, the space shuttle hadn't officially flown yet. So how can it be crashing off RAF Woodbridge in the sea? Ooh. So it turns out that, speeding on, the late Hilary Porter was in a Marconi intelligence facility, Marconi Defense in Farnborough. And in April 1974, the ETs were in there going through all the plannings. That's where everything's stored on big drawers with A0, big drawings and of all the secret stuff. It's a drawing office. And the ETs were going through that. That was April 1974. Now that area is since been taken over by DARPA. That's where the Concorde was developed. Britain's wind tunnel was there. And she has numerous accounts of huge triangular craft flying into the runway at RAF at Farnborough Airport. It was coming into land, huge giant thing coming in, and it just goes underneath in. That kind of thing was happening up at Machrihanish and other British bases and other facilities. And that's how they enter. They just switch on a thing and away they go. But the point is that the crop circles, that crop circle, which is man-made, which was at Warminster, had a little thing to bring the attention to it. And the farmer decided not to have it cut out. So somebody was whistleblowing about the Warminster thing 60 years later. But in terms of Rendlesham Forest, there was a whole pile of craft landed. It's 5 triangles and 5 disc craft landed near Area 1. That's I think it's the North Gate, which goes in between the two bases. And they all landed there, and they were seen by a whole bunch of school children. But nobody wants to talk about that. And it turns out that Dot Street, who's one of the British researchers, the key British researchers, which are sidelined, is Dot Street, Brenda Butler, and Peter Parrish. And I've done a basis 3 on this. It took me about 15 years to do all that. And he's given me a whole lot of stuff about drawings and about all sorts of stuff that were all flying around there. Now, the bottom line is, I've mentioned a shuttle came in there and it didn't make it, and bits of it were left hanging around, and a photograph was smuggled out by a lady who subsequently suddenly left the Rendlesham, the Woodbridge base the next day and ended up not coming back to Britain. So just don't, that was Brenda Butler's research. We got that, and Peter Parrish.
Wow.
But the point is that the Rendlesham Forest UFO events had several events happening. One of them landed, and there was a transport aircraft dispatched to pick it up. And the only way that transport aircraft could have picked it up was because they knew it was coming.
Yeah. You know, what I was saying the same, Miles, is there's a new documentary. It's called Capel Green.
Yes, Capel Green. The point about Capel Green is that the original thing all started, that particular set of things all started because there's a child looked out of her bedroom window, and there was an object sitting on Capel Green on the field, and they're all sidelined. In fact, that lady when she grew up and has said, "Hello, I'm the person who saw the thing land." So she phoned. She told her grandfather. Her grandfather phoned up the police, and the police says, "Well, you better phone the base and phone them." Yeah. So that's all forgotten. But that movie identifies that, and the point about Colonel Holt is, and Gary Heseltine has had a big awakening. He's published in his book Non-Human, and that's a new term. Non-human, not extraterrestrial, non-human. That's very important. They find out that one of the key things about the bases are that when you go to them, you've got the photographs of key base commanders and personnel. Okay, you walk in, East Gate, whatever gate there is, you walk in, and there's photographs of these guys with their hats on. That's the British guy, that's the US Air Force guy. These are the commanders or whatever. Holtz was never there. He was hanging around to information manage anything if it happened. And that's what he's done. He has information managed it. The main thing that they've done is they've Americanized it. Any of the British witnesses have basically been cast off and told to go off somewhere, right? Jenny Randalls took over the book, the original Sky Crash book, where Brenda Butler, Dot Street, and Peter Parrish, I think, had written a book about these accounts, and that was taken over by Jenny. And with all due respect to Jenny, she'd written a letter to the MOD saying, "I'll do anything you tell me to." That book was sidelined and information managed, and that's in the history books. Now it's been republished, so maybe the new version has got stuff in there that the MOD censored it. Yeah. So. But the point is,
I was smiling. I was like, I gotta say this, like, and I'm not making fun of the lady because, like, she's an amazing lady. But someone in the chat wanted to know. They said, "Miles, have you ever been to Elena Danan's house?" Like, I laugh, like, you know, I thought you would find that funny, but like, you know, I can't believe someone actually asked that question. Shout out to Mystifying Mark, whoever that guy is. You know,
I can see that. It's right here.
I'm so annoyed. I invited Elena Danan to my conference. She wouldn't come to my conference. She's sitting there down at Dingle. Down at Dingle, you know, down in Southwest, you know. And that's a Cork accent. And that's Cork for those He wants to hear it in English. And she could have just simply jumped into a Ryanair flight, Fekka Airlines, and flown over, and she would have been at my conference. And she poo-pooed it. Now, the bottom line is, this is my view on Elena Danaan. I did 3 interviews with her. Interview 1, we got on very well. Interview 2, we said something sufficiently bad that these people, ladies and gentlemen, for those listening at home, we're having a temporary breach in transmissions because these two are pressing themselves. God almighty. The point is, the second interview was banned by YouTube. So what did Elena Danaan say? I'm trying to be serious here. When you pull yourself together.
I did 3 interviews with her too, Miles, and one of mine with her got banned too. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's
so like she wouldn't appear. The point is, in interview 3, just hit your mute button, woman. It's just not on my. These people I have to work with. She would not come. She explained in that interview about her Cedars book, and I could see that she was genuinely afraid that she was in fear of her life publishing the Cedars book. Next thing, she doesn't want to talk to me anymore. The Cedars book is published, and don't talk to that nasty. You're not going to talk to that nasty man. Don't you talk about him.
I think she has some really good information. Like I said, that Cedars book's amazing.
Something happened, and I think Michael Sala has uncovered something there, and there's been a bit of a hissy fit and a tantrum about things. And it's interesting that Michael Sala has done that, giving full credit where it's due. And that's an important situation. But so this is a case of another key witness or source being basically pushed off to the side. So
yeah.
there are. So that's how this is working, and they will use whatever way that they can and find out which is going to work until it does work. And that's ahead of everybody. It's ahead of you guys. They've certainly done that with me. Oh, I've been so hurt. No fucking around here. Can I say that?
You go right ahead. You're wonderful, Miles.
Karen had a question, and maybe if you could put it up, Coley. She says, what is Miles' take on the HAARP-like circles radiating over areas like Alberta and Saskatchewan for 1 hour? Glowing discs on
HAARP is a distraction, but there is something very odd going on there. I've seen for the first time in quite a long number of years Tom Bearden's scalar weather cloud radials, which the Russians were pioneering in the 1970s and 80s, otherwise known as the woodpecker. What happened was you'd hear on the shortwave band, you'd hear a clacker, 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 and it would be multi-frequency hop all over the shortwave band, and that would put this pulsed signal over the horizon. Is this woman gone, or what she's done?
I don't know what happened.
Well, using the term woman is very, very derogatory. It's a dreadful thing to say. She's joining us. She's smoking cigars. You smoking cigars, or you got your pipe? I reckon you look good with a pipe. Women puffing pipes, puff, puff. Right. Let's not. What are we talking about here?
We're talking about your take on the HAARP-like circles radiating over areas of Alberta and Saskatchewan.
There is a thing called scalar energetics, and now this is actually featured on an episode of Abandoned Engineering. What the Russians were doing was that they had these huge antenna systems, which they label Tesla antennas. In other words, anybody, if you want to sort of sideline something, that's a Tesla. a Tesla antenna, or it could be a still in existence Tartarian piece of technology. But I don't want to throw the ball too far out of court on that. He's vaping. You should be puffing with a pipe. Anyway, the point is, we're losing the plot here. Now, the point is, scalar energetics uses the ability to take, you make a scalar wave by taking two vector waves and collapsing them together in phase, and then they disappear to zero. No, they don't. They create a monopolar non-vector wave, and that's known as a scalar wave. Electromagnetic waves are you've got one electrical component and one magnetic component, and they're spinning around. That's a vector, and they have got a problem traveling faster than light. So that's another part of the physics which they've gerrymandered and screwed, so we don't go faster than light. So you can't do that, you can't do that. That's rubbish. So scalar energetics. So what they did was they were able to get a series of linear clouds patterns going in parallel lines to different areas, and then in one particular part, you got these linear radials. When you see long parallel clouds right across the sky, maybe some areas will be missing because there's not enough moisture to see the clouds. You then swing those two beams together, and they form an XY grid. Okay, so if you put a pulse on one of the energy beams at one location and a pulse on another one, just like a grid, they'll join, and one part of that grid will activate, one node will activate. Then that all bunches up, and then you get a thing called radials. If you take all those parallel lines and crush them up, they look like radials. They're otherwise known as Wilson's cloud radials, and they look like fingers of energy going from a central point. Because in the middle, which is where the radial node is, that's where the action is. And that's where they can either take energy from that area and make it cooler, or they can put energy into that node and make it warmer or hotter, or they can actually evacuate that space-time area of space and contract reality. Then you have a space-time differential, and that is scalar energetics. And Tom Bearden has done a hell of a lot of work on this, a lot of stuff on the 1980s on how this was being done by the Americans, done by the Russians. What happened was, in Los Angeles, Mike Emery, who's published his Another Basis interviewee, he's an academic, he and his colleagues decided to stop this scalar energetics. And what the term is, and this is very, very important. This is very important for any bunch of gobshites who think they can do things at their keyboard or in their weapons array or in a different space-time domain, somewhere, anywhere, in any dimension, in any universe. It's called the phase conjugate of the time reversed wave. So what you do is a signal, somebody sends an energy wave to you, doesn't matter where it's coming from, could be a black magic spell, could be anything else. If you get access to that, you can send something back, reverse timed, and it follows that energy disturbance wherever it's come from, through whatever pathway it's gone through, and hit the bastards at the end of it. Now, that's what happened with Chernobyl. So this massive antenna, which was on abandoned engineering, and it's very important the way they shot that. Again, there's a lot of things in these TV shows which they don't say, but they'll show it to you if you pay attention. So you got the Chernobyl power station, this massive array with these huge antennas on it, because you're dealing with this massive long wave type of longitudinal wave. That antenna took a hit because somebody sent something back on the time reversed wave to wherever it was coming from. They didn't know where it was, but they found it. That was that antenna system. That caused what's called a standing wave ratio error, SWR. Any radio ham knows what SWR is. You've got to make sure that the power is leaving the antenna. If the power doesn't leave the antenna and it feeds back, whatever's providing power to that antenna will get hot and bothered. And that's what blew up the Chernobyl nuclear reactor. It got hot and bothered. And that's why that big antenna hasn't been used ever since. But the fact that they're now doing that, using that technology, you can see the radials here in Wiltshire, and you'll notice that these radials and these nodes will be over a military base or maybe an ET base. Why are they doing that little bit over there and over that part of the world? Because maybe there's something there they want to take out. And the fact I think the Russians have decided we're not going to take this anymore, Howard Beale. And maybe I'm suggesting they're operating scalar energetics and they're not going to be messed around with. But they must have solved the little problem of having an SWR error in their transmission system. That means they're able to move weather systems around the place or create earthquakes. And it's not HARP. But that's going to happen anyway because of the collapse of the magnetic field and these two massive energy waves, these magnetic energy waves that Professor Valentina Zarkova has been telling us about. These two energy waves, these magnetic energy waves leaving the sun, used to basically go together in synchronous. Now they're going out of sync when they arrive at the Earth, and that is having a very serious effect on our magnetic field here. And this all ties in with 2028 and 2034. And that's when the UN are doing all this stuff. That's when these technocratic blood-sucking parasites are doing their thing. And that's when it seems that the Draco are going to come and do a little raid and take their consignment of humans. Again, I don't believe that. That's what I'm just being told by little people who say things to me. Well, so that is all coincident with the same time. And today the British government has released information about dealing with mass deaths and stuff like that. So they're all trying to do a lot of things which will happen to other people. It certainly wouldn't happen to them, I say.
Wow, that's amazing. That's interesting. Should we do one more question? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, is that? I'm sorry.
Have I done a downer on this? Have I stopped all the laughter?
No, I think I'll be laughing about this for a while. But we did have a couple questions that I definitely wanted to get to here real quick. Let me see here. I'll pull it up. Our girl Polly Roderman, she wants to know what's that?
I'll be right back.
Oh, that's okay. Any info on hybridization programs involving praying mantises and little grays? And what is the baby's task and goal?
I don't get the last bit. Baby's task. I can't see
I
that.
think that maybe it was what is their task or goal? I don't know. Maybe it was asked a little bit.
Well,
earlier,
we have to figure out whether the praying mantises and the reptilians. I mean, Duncan Davis was doing things. Is he gone or he's run out of batteries?
He had to run.
Duncan Davis had a Chinook helicopter fly over his farm, and at the back of the helicopter was open, and there was a praying mantis ET in there because they're big guys, and it takes a lot of that happening. So that's just flying over the countryside of Chichester, I think.
Wow.
I think he's gone, hasn't he?
No, he'll be right back.
Yeah. He'll be right back.
He'll be right back.
We'll be right back
After these messages.
So that's I don't know the grades and there's a lot. The thing about the Elena Danaan book, which I still recommend, is A Gift from the Stars. Now, that is her republishing the Soviet handbook on ETs. That's a very valuable book to have, Elena Danan's book, A Gift from the Stars, because as she says in the book, where she gives full credit, that it is an expansion of the Russian or the Soviet handbook, which was given to assets in the field. That if you meet an alien, look this one up, and you better not touch that, but this will be okay. That's a useful manual to have. Was giving her all due credit, and it was printed in you can tell it was rush printed because there's a couple of repeat paragraphs, so they weren't able to proofread it really as well as they'd like to. I disagree with some of the descriptions of things, but I've had witnesses go through that book and say, that's what I saw. I was with that or this or that type. And some of the Alpha Draco stuff right here in Warminster, in Wiltshire, in this country here. Another little thing you can do, if you are very sensitive to nature, you can ask the trees. They see and they talk. So if you're able to communicate with those other witnesses of experiencing things, you'll get a lot of information. So
wow, I've always wondered about the trees. That's interesting.
The trees are always there. Again, you see this in the Harry Potter movies and the Lord of the Rings. All sentient life is watching, experiencing, and learning. And if you talk to it nicely, they can tell you things back.
That's fascinating.
Mr. CIA, Mr. KGB, or whatever it is. And the Russian books, Anastasia, very important books. Again, I understand that was a KGB project, the Anastasia books, about the ringing cedars of Russia. Again, that goes into, I think, Russian lore, I think you call it, legend of the cedar trees giving this energy burst back to you. And anybody who really knows about trees, some trees are taking energy from the ground and pushing it up, and other trees are taking energy from above and bringing it down, because we have a whole intelligent plasma field of ocean, of being, of sentient life above our atmosphere, between all the planets. There's an awful lot of things up there, and they're singing as well.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. What do you think? Have you heard of Don wants to know, Miles, is there any truth?
Alternative 3.
Yes.
Alternative 3 is a brilliant whistleblow. 1977. It was shot while the Viking landers and the Viking 1 and 2 orbiters first got good quality pictures of the surface of Mars, and of course Mars itself on the orbiters. And what Alternative 3 did was, it's fiction, okay? But if you pick up on something that's happening, they got it right. And that scared the living daylights out of the secret space program people, where Alternative 3, which was it was a spoof, let's make a documentary, but they picked up on stuff which was true. And I noticed this because I lived and worked at Sky TV very close to Heathrow, and you have the abandoned car problem, where people just leave their cars, and they leave them often in a car park or beside a railway station. And there's an awful lot of that happening. I'd walk past a car, and it had their lunch in it, all daily things that you'd be using, and suddenly they've left all of that and it's just gone. And that's what happened in the Alternative 3 program, where there'll be cars which are, people go to the airport and they never come back. And that was the first time that they were able to show that people were disappearing, and then there's further information on that, and they were going to Mars. And that rang too true. Now, today you've got a lot of the SSP people, a lot of those Mars and back people are remembering all that stuff. But this is 1977. So they got something in 1977, and it was filmed over a year. So you've got the 2 seasons, winter and summer, and then they aired it in June of 1978. But it should have been aired apparently on the 1st of April 1978, and they banned it in the United States. And then when the authors decided to go to New Zealand and leave and go away, all his luggage is stolen. That's making too much noise. If you're going to do that kind of thing, you don't make so much noise, because then you're showing that what they found is true. And ultimately, about 25 years, 30 years later, he finds the original transmission film in his loft.
Wow.
So they took the film and they made a DVD of it, high quality DVD, and that is a DVD you need to have, because then the existing director and the people who did that were still young enough, or having reached a great age. They were able to talk about that whole thing. And that's a very important little bit of reality management, where something that's completely classified and nobody's talking about it, you can still pick up on it. So when you're sensitive and you've got perceptions, just see what you're hearing and seeing, because you could be picking up on stuff that you want to keep quiet, which is why the whole thing about Karen. Anyway, in other words, it's in the air.
Someone said Karen should do an interview with you, but Karen was on basis. I think she was on one of the, I think she said it earlier in the chat. She was on basis 43 or 47. Karen McDonald.
God knows. You know, getting that stuff back was not easy. One of the things about any digital media is that it will fail if you leave it lying around. You need to spin these hard drives up or copy them. Everybody thinks once it's digital, that's it there forever. No, it isn't. These hard drives fail. They're just a turntable. Just imagine a vinyl record on a turntable. That's the same thing you've got on the inside of these hard drives, and they stick, the bearings stick, and they don't work. Then you start vibrating. These things are spinning around at 7,000 RPM or 10,000 RPM. You only need to be out a couple of microns and they'll start going up and down. You can't put a 50p piece you can't put a half crown on it to make the record stay playing. So all the stuff we're dealing with could just vanish.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you want to keep your data, you have to dump it down to a low anthropic storage medium, and that is entropy, not anthropic, and that's tape. So all this stuff about getting things off tape ultimately have to be stored back on tape. I've got a couple of reel-to-reels here. They play reel-to-reels, real 10-inch reels. I just have them for show, so they look really. Oh wow, you got one of those.
Very impressive. Very impressive. Yeah, Rob,
you guys are doing a hell of a good job.
This is amazing.
That is amazing. Well, you got a lot of love in the audience, Miles. I was trying to go through and make sure that we didn't have anything that we missed, but you're fascinating, and your knowledge is absolutely. I mean,
well, when you get up to my vast bloody age, you start remembering. You do a few things.
Well, you don't.
Anyway, I'm doing a basis. My website is basistv.org. That's free. It's got a window on a lot of the stuff that we do. The pay site is basistv.com, and that's where the archive is. And that's I think we're still trying to populate stuff that we've lost. That's where everything is going to be, and we've remastered stuff. I've got to do Chris Thomas again because there's some distortion. That's getting digital tape, putting it into a player, and getting pictures and sound off it. Amazing.
Wow. So are you so those are the best places to find you, Miles, or is there anywhere else?
Yeah, basistv.com is the new website. We're populating it, and it's got Penny Bradley's got special courtesy space there, and Thomas Mikey Jensen, who's doing a lot of work on the Mars stuff. That's his baby, Space Link Films, I think he's called, Space Link TV. He's worked very, very hard on the analysis of the actual physical evidence from NASA. And as I say, he's saying that big square that people are talking about wasn't there a few years ago. It's only appeared relatively recently. So who's put it there? Whoa.
Do you know, Miles?
I haven't a clue. That's an open question. It's not who has put it there? Is it the insectoids? Or what's his name? Fitzberg, or what's his name? What's his name? Did the people sing? Very good.
I don't know. Rob, do you know?
John Fitzberg, or what's his name?
John Whitberg?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did he do it?
He wrote the book The Man with the Periwinkle Eyes. He's a fan.
I gotcha. Well, this is interesting. You give us a lot to really think about here. Huh.
Well, the thing about that is it's very, very detailed, but a lot of fact is hidden in fiction.
Yes. Oh, yes. You better believe it. You better
and the
believe
point
it.
is that more people start talking about it, and then they remember. But it's still only people talking about it. You cannot believe, you don't buy a house on this stuff. We've got to be very, very careful on that. Always put that filter in. It's like Bitcoin, 25 billion pounds making every day or something. You try going down to the corner shop and buy 99 ice cream with extra flakes on it. That's a dangerous thing.
You're not getting out with some extra charges, that's for sure. Wow. Well,
I'm not doing an Elon Musk.
Do you think Musk has something to do with it?
No, that was a joke.
I'm just checking. You're awfully cryptic sometimes, so I'm just trying to.
Well, you see, the thing
toes.
about that is, if you watch the movie with Peter Sellers, brilliant film where we're all going to die with nuclear winter. Peter Sellers plays Hitler. He does a German accent, and a bit of fun. Again, that's a film made with the U.S. Air Force. It's Dr. Strangelove, and the U.S. Air Force says you cannot use one of our aircraft, but they got a thing called the manuals and the publicity shots, and they built a whole set, made it so good that the Americans, U.S. Air Force says, how the hell do you goddamn do that? And goddamn, and they just made a set. They made it believable, and of course, critics, to use a term that Walter Cronkite would say, that's how they fake the moon landings.
I was gonna say, it's like Stanley Kubrick stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so true
and the
too.
Thing with Stanley Kubrick is, hello, man with an axe. Here's Johnny. It's all in that movie. That's the movie that he did, and there's a very established author who explained that very well, and his name escapes me, but he's done a lot of good work on that. You've got to look at these things sideways at 90 degrees. A bit like playing a game of battleships. You've got to figure out what you don't know it's what you need to know. And I'm not going to do the famous thing about known unknowns and unknown knowns, but that all makes sense.
Who's on first?
Mr. Mansfield, or what's his name? The former.
So say that again. It's about the. Now I just. About the who. Can you remember what you just said? Because that was pretty brilliant.
What?
It's not about what you know, or you should know that. I'm going to have to go back. I'll clip it, but.
You start off with a whole lot of known unknowns.
Known unknowns. There you go.
Right. Because we don't know this, we don't know that. Those are called known unknowns. Right? Now, don't get me confused here. And then you have the unexpected unknowns. Right? Because they'll crop up. So it's that's why when the shuttle is about to launch, they do clear all unexpected errors or something. So you just clear the board and say, right, we're flying. This is going to work. We're going, right? And that's a way of, okay, we're going to go. We know this doesn't work, or this has got a problem, whatever it is. It's going to work. Go, right? So it's when you have somebody. Another way of saying it is somebody throwing a spanner in the works. That's an unknown.
Okay.
But you don't expect it. Are we getting here? Are we okay?
Yeah. No, there's always an element of truth. I said it in any of it because you even talked about Elena Danan stuff. Like they always have. There's nuggets of truth through all this. You just have to learn how to decipher.
That's one of the reasons why you listen to a liar.
Yes.
And there are several interviewees that I've interviewed, and they were lying, barefaced lying, making it up. And they even said it at the end, or maybe 2 years later, I made it all up.
Wow.
I still ran it. They get annoyed. You put that back up. I didn't want you to put that back up. No, blah, blah, blah. But from a research point of view, you need to see that. You need to see how somebody is lying about something. You need to see how that's happening. You need to see how the reasoning and logic behind it is. You need to see how the mechanism of that thing is happening. So when other people come along and they're lying to their teeth, you can actually, they're using that thing, or the way they're using that, or whatever. Yeah. But you know, you have to say it's a lie. But it's sometimes best that you don't tell people it's a lie, because then you lose the whole point of watching the person lying. Because then you'll say, I knew that. Of course that person's a liar, but he bloody said it that way. Gee, I mean, obviously it's a lie.
Yeah.
And then the liar will always will dance around their handbag, because they don't want to reveal something that they're lying about.
So true.
And that's how you get the data. What's he avoiding? What's he trying not to say? I don't charge for this, you know. It was great fun interviewing Bill Uhouse. It was a great guy. He talked about the whole thing about the Greys and stuff like that. John Lear was... Some of my best work are the comedy moments from John Lear.
Yeah, I miss John Lear.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Great that he... Another great guy that's so much fun, yeah.
So do you know, I heard you talk about John Walson's before. John's a good friend of mine.
John Walson has just put a video up using AI imagery about this Atlas thing. And that's why I would suggest you pay attention. He's saying a lot of information about the uniformity of certain regular aspects of this object and non-regular aspects of this object, which indicate that it's a constructed vehicle, which is powered and doing things. And when John Walson puts a thing like that out, and it's high quality AI, you know, somebody's maybe pushed that out there. And again, the two things at the conference were, at this year's conference, is the Israeli flag being pulled by a very small plane with a hell of a distance between the flag and the plane. Now, Anthony Zender explained that was a TR series projection. It's a false image.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Did you see that? There's a picture. There's a guy. There was a plane flying an Israeli flag all down the coast of Tampa, and flew past the conference. And there was another event which happened the day before, which was a black helicopter flew really close over the
whole conference area. I remember that. Yeah.
Now the picture I saw of that was a very old school, fairly fat and clumsy helicopter.
Oh, wow.
Like the old school, fairly rounded body with a thin tail, but the one that Ida sent me was, I think, just an ordinary commercial private helicopter. But because you couldn't see it because of the sun, that doesn't make it a black helicopter. This helicopter I saw, the key thing is that was a demonstration. The case here is it's a demonstration of how they have craft which can fly in broad daylight, towing a flag. You can't see the wire. Maybe there is a wire, but we just can't see it. But that seems to be an illusion. Maybe somebody got better pictures and we can see whether that is an illusion. But Anthony Zender was saying it was a projection using the cloaking technology that these TR craft have.
Wow. Okay.
Again, that's only 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that flag was flying the next day on the Sunday. You can look up and see it.
Fascinating.
So if they are going to stage fake alien invasion, which is what this blue beam thing, Ralph Noyes, you're talking 1980s here. British Ministry of Defense whistleblower, only allowed to talk to people on audio to no more than 150 people, 120. He was a very fine gentleman, MOD, and he mentions Project Bluebeam way back then.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. So, I mean, you go back and what they were trying to do, they've had this technology first. The government holds technology here for at least, 45 years before the people get it? I mean,
well, Nick Pope mentions 1,000 years, but I think one of the points about what Casbolt released, or his handler was given a cuneiform document, and this is way back in 2011, and Casbolt had released this cuneiform written document on parchment, and his handler had given him that, and the point about it is it's got one of the way you encrypt a document is you have a certain angle on each line. It's got a slope on it, and then the next line will have a different slope. And it's not because they're being careless and they're just drawing lines on a piece of parchment. It's because that's part of the encryption code. So a lot of these things that looks a bit weird. He's was off on days, had too much coffee, or maybe he was having a smoke or whatever. That's why that letter looks a little bit odd. No, it's because it's intentionally odd. It's been made to look like that. And that was something which goes back to the reptilian Draco agreements in Copenhagen, I think, in Sweden, about a special kind of technology that they needed to get the eyes right. The problem with the eyes is they'd always fail to look like reptilian eyes, vertical slit. And this problem was discussed in this cuneiform type document. And that goes back to the early 1700s.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, gosh. This has been going on for a long time. That's for
also,
sure.
the three-eyed atlas. We've talked about that.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that.
I think the atlas thing it's a big rock. When you got one rock flying past us and then you got another bigger rock flying past us, pay attention, because there could be a whole pile of rocks about to hit us. And that's, again, what's that remote viewer? He was discredited, but that's what he talked about. There's going to be incoming, and Graham Hancock has got a book on all that the next great extinction is when we fly through a debris field of a lot of rocks, a lot of big thing, and that could be what's happening. Or it could be an alien spacecraft. But you got one big rock, you have another big rock, and they're all long bits of shattered something or other. That means you have an uncontrolled event incoming, which is going to cause a lot of problems.
Wow.
Oh, Miles.
Either that is an alien thing, and it's still the same thing.
People are still going to panic. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. Wow. So Rob, do you have any other questions on your, I'm just like, my mind, I'm going to sit and simmer on this for a long, Miles, you are brilliant. You really are brilliant. I mean, wow.
Well, I did have hair once. It's all fallen off.
Your mind is beautiful. You have a beautiful mind.
It's shocking pictures of me up a radio mast. Do you know how difficult it is to take a picture of yourself on a radio mast without dropping off the bloody thing? Generally not advised, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, everybody's
the whole point. Those pirate radio stations. We're dealing with perception management. I called it reality, the RMS, Reality Management System. And it's interesting that in the Pentagon, there's an alleged rumor talking about an alleged office called perception management. And that's when they fiddle with the algorithms in encoded digital signals. Because an encoded, an MPEG or JPEG encryption thing is designed to mimic as close as possible the human perception of sound in the ears or the eyes. But if you're not human, that could annoy you. Wynne Keach found that out when they were putting an algorithm to stop digital copying. So you could copy once, but if you copied twice, the noise or the whistle that they put into the copying could subtly be heard. When he played this digital copyright thing to the board of directors of a particular record company, there's about 3 or 4 people in the directors who were screeching and sort of getting very uncomfortable, at which point he realized that he was actually annoying some real reptilians in the board, at which point he decided, oh, I haven't got that quite right yet, and switched it off. But he found a way of, and that's in Mars Attacks. The only way to kill the aliens is to get somebody to listen to country music. Heads blow up.
Is it too depressing? I mean, really. Oh, boy.
Just imagine being saved by Tom Jones. That's it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, man. Well, Miles, I really want to thank you for today. It's absolutely been a pleasure having you, and thank you for giving us so much of your time and your knowledge and your humor, because you by far are like probably the funniest person that I've had on yet. So I really
sometimes I'm just a miserable bastard. Don't you annoy me? I'll annoy you.
Oh, I love it.
Northern Ireland.
Thank you. I had fun.
Talk to you with your teeth closed, and then you get. We're gonna go there, okay?
You know, if this doesn't, you definitely have a place in comedy. I really, yeah. I tell you, Yeah, you're brilliant. You are brilliant. You got the best of both worlds. You're brilliant.
This is a good book
you're
here.
funny.
I just bought it in Glastonbury. It's Garrett M. Graff, and it's got some good analysis of the established UFO law. Remember, Donald Keyhoe was a German intelligence asset. So all those early books by Donald Keyhoe are German intelligence making sure you don't find out too much and you get the right narrative.
Wow.
So that's German intelligence from the Austro-Hungarian Empire bleeding through into the whole UFO narrative. And who is desperate to maintain control of the UFO narrative is the CIA. And the CIA's nomenclature, the actual reason the letters are Central Intelligence Agency, is because that's the way they labeled things in the middle of the 1800s in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Central Bureau, Central this. So that whistleblows the CIA's origins and its agenda. And of course, that's when all the stuff went AWOL, the suppression of the crucial equations, Maxwell's equations, which if you get to the full content of Maxwell's equations and reinterpret them into normal, what we call algebra, you're gonna find out how to go to the moon in a bat of an eye. It's all in those equations from the 1800s that J.P. Morgan and all the rest of those clowns deliberately messed with the science of engineering and electrical science. So we always have to burn fuel, always have to do this and all that stuff. And you can't travel fast to the light.
Wow.
They've gerrymandered the textbooks of science. Okay, I think that's probably it.
So true. Well, Miles, again, thank you so much for coming on. And I mean, I'll be thinking about this for a while. So I appreciate it. I really do.
Good fun.
And
And remember, you guys are the future. You're doing well, but there are sons of bitches out there and right behind you. So just be careful.
Thank you. Wow, Miles is excellent, Rob. He's excellent. Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was fun.
Wow.
It was.
Awesome. Is there anything what do you got going on today? You know, you got a show coming. I got a show coming tonight at 9 p.m. So that's pretty exciting. What do you got on?
Yeah, with Sean Bond. He's gonna do readings, you know. But right now, I just did 2 shows in a row, so I'm gonna go out and get some air. I need to go out and get some. I need to walk a little bit just to you know what I mean?
Go out and see. Yeah, get out there. I totally understand that.
You know, that's what I'm gonna do right now, and then I'll be refreshed by 9 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully, I think I should be. You know.
Amazing. So I guess everybody, if you're around, Rob's gonna be taking a walk to the gas station, I'm assuming. And we're gonna go ahead and cut it here. So enjoy your weekend. Hopefully if you make it back on. Rob, I think you were so funny with that. If you make it back on, you know, check out Rob's channel, a Typical Skeptic Podcast. You can come back on and jump over here and jump.
Wait. You're doing a show tonight too, right? Aren't you doing a show tonight as well?
Yes. Who do we have? Who was? Yes. Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to announce it or what, you know, because then some people might want to watch you instead of watching me, you know. So.
You know how bad I am with names, Rob?
Tony Rathman.
Thank you. On that note, thank you for taking the journey into the unknown with SNX Radio. We'll see you tonight at 9 p.m. I'm going to kill you for that one, Rob. Oh, boy.
Yo, check. 1, 2, SNX Radio, typical skeptic crew. Friday night, we're back in the booth, dropping truth bombs, igniting the proof.
Rob and Coley, cosmic open transmission from Area 51 to Skinwalker Ranch. Declassify the files, give truth a chance. Bass drum thumping, a sonic boom. We're breaking down the walls of every room. Skeptical minds unite tonight underneath the stars bathed in moonlight. Truth serum flowing through the veins. Open your mind, break the chains. Question everything, challenge the norm. Ride the cosmic wave, weather the storm. Truth serum flowing, take a dose. Unravel the secrets, expose what's closed. Join the movement, the skeptical quest for the hidden knowledge put to the test.
Cryptids creeping in the shadows deep. Ancient mysteries, secrets they keep. Bigfoot's footprints, Loch Ness's grace. Unexplained phenomena, time and space.
We're chasing ghosts with EMF readers, searching for answers, cosmic leaders, digging for the truth beneath the surface. Uncover the lies with a lyrical purpose. Truth serum flowing through the veins. Open your mind, break the chains. Question everything, challenge the known. Ride the cosmic wave, weather the storm. Truth serum flowing, take a dose. Unravel the secrets, expose what's closed. Join the movement, the skeptical quest for the hidden knowledge put to the test.
From Roswell crashes to ancient lore, we're exploring the unknown and so much more. Conspiracy theories, twisted and true. Uncover the answers, me and you.
Truth serum flowing through the veins. Open your mind, break the chains. Question everything, challenge the norm. Ride the cosmic wave, weather the storm. Truth serum flowing, take a dose. Unravel the secrets, expose what's closed. Join the movement, the skeptical quest for the hidden knowledge put to the test.
SNX and typical skeptics sign off. Keep searching for truth. Turn the lights off. I'll keep them on, whatever you choose. Just keep questioning, never lose that skeptical spark, that curious fire. Explore the unknown, take it higher.